talking about prescribed medicine, do people do people get addicted to prescribed medicine also? Like, do they know about it?
Yeah, as I told you, people don't have access to them.
Okay.
But at the same time, now with available Google, I'm sure they have access to information at least. So with available information, they can try to procure it through other means of getting them. And in fact, I can remember one of juniors was there when we were training. This famous injection used to be there at that time called Fortwin. It used to contain Phenergan, both of them. Phenergan is antihistaminic, and Fortwin is this opioid-related derivative called pentazocine. So it was used to be it was used for pain at that time, and he used to consume it a lot in its injectable format. It used to use IV intravenous injections or intramuscular injections. So I remember that particular individual, and he was in hell, a lot of hell. He used to procure with different means. Although we actually helped him a lot, counseled him a lot, went to a psychiatrist, but nothing helped. And he ultimately had several infections. And later on, it took a lot of effort from the family as well as the friends to bring him out of it. And luckily, at least now, he's out of this totally.
So if we know that someone is abusing or recreationally using some kind of substance, and we are no experts, so what can you say something to people who, I mean, if I identify someone near and dear to me that he is using or abusing, so how do people deal with that? Do they address it directly, or how do they?
Problem here is people actually are abusing the drug. They don't come out in open. So that's a difficult thing. And even if they come out in open, they don't tell the exact quantity of the amount they take, the ways how he's procuring them, and where is he funding them, or how is he funding those particular drugs. So these are things which are very difficult, and unfortunately they don't open to the parents either. So now he's left alone, and because he's dependent, he keeps on taking them. So now how that person comes to either healthcare professional or family is when they become intoxicated.
And when before it's too late, they don't come.
Absolutely. So intoxication can be in the form of acute intoxication as well as chronic intoxication. Like acute intoxication, for example, say cannabis or opioid. Both come into the category of what are called as downers or depressants.
Okay.
Other hand, we have stimulants like ecstasy and MDMA, and which are stimulators. They're called uppers. So downers actually depress our central nervous system, and uppers stimulate the central nervous system.
Okay.
So downers, what they do, they initially give a feeling of pleasure and relaxation. The muscles get relaxed, and the eye pupils get smaller in size. So the mind becomes dull, numb, and they can have low respiratory rate, and the heart rate slows down, the blood pressure little comes down, the muscle tone relaxes. So it's more like a calming or relaxing effect. Now, but when they becomes excessive, you can have depression of the breathing. So actually leading to depression of heart rate, leading to strokes, and as well as even arrests can happen. They can go into coma because of that. So that is at that point of time when they reach the hospital. Obviously, he's in comatose state, not breathing well. So then we have certain measures and means to immediately counter the immediate effect of it. Some counter, for example, for opiates, we have naloxone or naltrexone injections to counter the effect of the drug. For cannabis, there is no specific antidote. It's only supportive care. That's what we do. And once he's out of that, then we as neurologists hand over that particular person to psychiatrist or a psychologist. Now that way the real struggle begins. So generally, also hear from our psychiatric colleagues or psychology colleagues is that they initially come for 2 or 3 visits at the helm of their parents, but later on they're forced. Most of the default follow.
So how is the rehab situation in India, sir?
Yeah, the rehabilitation, especially for substance abuse, there are now well-established centers. If you talk about smoking cessation and alcohol cessation, which are by far the largest consumed substances in our country, and the legalized ones. And that's why there are legalized de-addiction centers for this. and the family is open about approaching for these centers. The patient himself is happy to approach these centers. Of course, there are issues about the motivation required from the person who is actually abusing them. When it comes to terms of illegal ones and the recreation, that's club drugs, very few recreation centers actually cater to them. And in general, it requires a multidisciplinary team of not only a psychiatrist or psychologist, it requires social worker, a rehabilitation department, both physical rehabilitation as well as psychological rehabilitation. Because most of these drugs have dependence in both physical terms as well as psychological terms. And obviously, while they are doing this de-addiction process, they can have multiple physical complications, like for example, fits or seizures, which can happen. Person can have tingling feeling in the hands and legs. They might become tremulous. They can blood pressure fluctuations, and sometimes even when they're going undergoing de-addiction centers, they can be rebound phenomena of the same one. So to address that, you require a multidisciplinary team where the other specialists like neurologist, cardiologist, or other gastroenterologists also need to pitch in to form a multidisciplinary team for those de-addiction centers. And I'm afraid in our country we are not geared to this the undercurrent which is going on in the country. It's only going to last in the next couple of decades. So it's sooner than later we should try to both at the government level, at the private organizations level, the medical fraternity level, we should try to address this issue at the most urgency and try to see whether de-addiction centers which are already existing for alcohol and smoke can also be extended beyond to recreation drugs also.
You can have kind of a virtual counseling also. They need anonymity. Then.
At that, actually, this COVID times, if you see, we are doing a lot of online consultations, and people on the other end are very happy because they have privacy there. They don't have to approach their family members all the time to come to a hospital. And I can also say that a lot of psychological issues are being discussed on the online platform with the doctor or the healthcare professional. And I'm sure this is a way, that's a nice suggestion. I think that's a way where the person who is actually abusing them can correct directly to healthcare professional without bypassing
or a phone
else.
call without giving their ID, or if they want anonymity, just to understand.
Yeah, correct.
So because step one is to realize that they're doing something wrong or something is wrong, and then step two is to know what it is, then where to draw the line.
Correct.